everything that's happened was me winging it. I'm not gonna lie. It's not like I had like some grand master plan. I feel like if you have an idea, the best day to implement it is right now. Because if you try to plan it, you're never gonna do it. It's the same way when I started the channel. I was like, all right, I'm gonna set it up. I'm gonna do it. There's no point in me trying to like have some kind of master plan rollout. Like I'm
Yeah.
this huge celebrity. If you're gonna do anything, right now is the time to start. So that's kind of the mentality I use when I jump into anything, even still to this day.
Three, two, one.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reactorverse podcast, brought to you by Passionfruit, where we interview all your favorite creators in the reaction space. I'm joined today by the man, the myth, the legend, YaBoyRoshi. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I've been wanting you on here pretty much since the beginning. Your, presence in the space is near unmatched in my opinion. Just in terms of your engagement and like just how much you're doing and how much you've achieved so far over the last several years you've been doing it with your channel. So I'm happy to have you here today.
I appreciate it. Thank you again.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot to go over. Many years on the channel, many achievements so far. So I want to dive right into it, which is with the beginning of the channel. It is founded on anime. That's sort of the main part of it. You started with Dragon Ball Super reviews and reactions. What is your personal history with anime?
Well, I grew up watching anime. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and it was just something that a lot of the kids in my neighborhood were into, and especially my cousin, who I looked up to. He used to get like these VHS tapes of Dragon Ball Z, and now that I'm looking back on it, they'd have like absolutely terrible subtitles because obviously nothing was official. They were all bootleg, but that's kind of like what got me into anime. That, and then obviously the Toonami block, which got a lot of us into anime as well. So I would say honestly, at my start, Dragon Ball Z was basically like the foundation, like that, and Yu Yu Hakusho, and like G Gundam, stuff like that. It's kind of what got me locked into anime and the culture itself.
Right. Yeah. I definitely had the same experience with those bootleg VHSs, getting them, censored, uncensored when they came out. It was a big part of trying to find out which one was which. And yeah, I've spoken to other reactors, who are in our same age group, who grew up in sort of like, the early 2000s, the Toonami block, as you said, with anime, when it wasn't, really accessible. It wasn't super popular. Was that your experience with it as well? Sort of like, say growing up with it, like, was it hard to sort of find, communities around that topic?
I would say when I was younger, it's just, I feel like all of the kids who were into that stuff just naturally gravitated toward each other because we were all into the same kinds of things. So I felt like anime and gaming, like those communities were kind of one in the same. So even if, let's say some people who were into gaming weren't so much into anime, they still knew what it was and understood it and kind of like had base level knowledge of stuff around anime. But I would say it was definitely a lot more difficult than it is now to connect with as many people. So my friend circles were like 3 to 5 people when I was like in elementary school and junior high school, and high school was a little bit different. I felt like it kind of started to pick up a little bit, but it's still not as many people who were into that specifically.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. Did you have any creative outlets with anime or other media prior to starting the channel?
Prior to starting the channel, not really. I would just say I used to draw a lot. A lot of people don't know that about me. Like, I draw. So I used to like copy Naruto covers and redraw them on my own. And Dragon Ball, I used to go to the library, print out pictures and then take them home and then draw them. But I would say from the time that I was in high school up until the time I started the channel, anime kind of took like a back seat in my life
Hmm.
and then didn't come back for about a decade. Like my interest had shifted as I was getting older and getting into other things. And then the channel and when I started the YaBoyRoshi page itself kind of brought that spark back, that love. That and Dragon Ball Super coming
Right.
back kind of brought that spark back for me in my love for anime because I was like, oh wow, it's been so long since
Yeah.
anything Dragon Ball has come out, and then Dragon Ball Super came, and then it was just like this huge explosion. So yeah, I would say that was like a pivotal moment.
That makes sense. Yeah, it was very similar for me, I guess. Like as well, like yeah, I was really into Dragon Ball growing up, and then yeah, this felt like a huge gap between that, GT and Super. It coming back felt like yeah, sort of like a return to like that era of like being really invested in the show.
Yeah.
I guess what was the a mindset and process behind starting the channel when you did back in 2017?
So when I started the channel back in 2017, again, my interests had shifted as a teenager in high school. I started to get a lot more into like music
Hmm.
and streetwear, and streetwear kind of became like a big passion for me in clothes. So I had started a clothing line when I had graduated college with some friends. Um, and I worked with different people to kind of like get it out there. At first, I was mostly working with people who had worked with the music industry because my degree is in graphic design, and then I kind of
Hmm.
worked my way into the music industry and was doing like album artwork and tour posters and flyers for different record labels. So I would use those connects to try and get my clothes out to different artists and stuff like that. And it was really difficult. So I decided to try and utilize like the influencer space as well. At the time, like meme pages and things like that were really big, especially on Instagram. And
Right.
they would charge people for promo. They would post their memes, get all this engagement, and then promote somebody's stuff like on the
Hmm.
same page, and it'll help you gain some traction. Um, and around that time, creators like IDC World, Caleb City, King Vader, were on the rise. And so I was like, okay, this is interesting. I like their stuff. I watched their content. Um, and at the time, I was working retail, and I met this kid. He started working at the same store as me, and he had this huge Twitter page. Like, I'm just talking massive.
Right.
Um, and we connected because he was also big into streetwear. And then he was like, oh, you do this too? And he's like, oh, let me show you what I do. Um, and I remember I helped him like bag up some orders one night, and I sat there and I watched him make like 5 grand in 3 hours just off of one tweet. And he
Right.
showed me how it worked. And there was like, at the time, I don't know if it's still like this, but I have to go through this. I'm sorry, I have to go through this whole story to like
No
kind of
problem. Yeah,
explain
please.
everything. Um, he showed me this thing called like Hootsuite, and at the time on Twitter, I wasn't on Twitter or anything like that, but Twitter was like a lot of people don't notice it was like run by like teenagers. It was
Mhm.
like a large group of 13 to 16-year-old kids that had these huge Twitter accounts. A lot of them were like parody accounts of different kinds of artists and things of that nature. And basically they would shoot out a tweet, and then they would put it in the group, and then it would get retweeted by all those pages, and then it would create viral tweets that
Right.
would go viral, and then in turn help other pages grow. So they would just build pages and flip them, build pages and flip them. So I was like, okay, this is actually kind of interesting. So I was trying to figure out how can I do this?
Hmm.
I see this as a vehicle for promotion and growth for what my passion is, my clothing line. Like this is what I want to do, and I have to kind of get with the times and learn how to use the internet. So he helped me purchase a Twitter page, and he's like, "Hey, if you're gonna do this, make sure it's something that you understand and something that you know. That way, you can create posts that'll get engagement."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Okay." Found a found a page. He knew that I was like into anime, and it was called YaBoyRoshi.
Right.
So I paid this kid like $300 for this Twitter handle. And that was around like 2016. And then I started making memes. And then I was like, okay, now I'm going to bring this to Instagram. Created the Instagram for YaBoyRoshi.
Right.
Started making memes like daily. I'm still working full time and still trying to run this clothing line and still working as a contractor for different record labels. So I'm doing all these things and I'm like, okay, I would set aside some time here and there, make memes. I would make memes for the week and then like schedule them to go out.
Right.
Then I would work with other Instagram pages to help me build that page. And then the page kind of got like a voice. And obviously I'm that voice for the page. So then I started reaching out to creators like Caleb City, Invader, RDC World. Because I was like, hey, I know I'm into clothes and stuff. And you have to understand, like, I'm in my early 20s, man. I'm hustling, I'm grinding. I'm trying to make some money.
Yeah.
I'm into clothes. I worked for a merch company as well. And I was like, okay, I can kind of set all this up like automatic. I can make some Dragon Ball merch. I mean, this seems to be kind of popping for me right now. It's kind of flopping for what the original intention was, but I can make like anime merch and kind of utilize that. So I started making anime merch and then I would send it out to certain creators and then they would help me promote it. And then I was like, okay, well, this is fun. I was like, whatever, I guess let me just make a YouTube channel and I can talk about Dragon Ball stuff. Cause again, Dragon Ball Super was out. I was like back into it again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this would be fun to talk about. And Dragon Ball Fighters was coming out. That was when the game was kind of first announced. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I can make like a channel. I had got into collecting figures because I had went to Japan and picked a couple up for the first time. And so like, it was just like prime time for Dragon Ball. And I was like, oh, this is cool. You know, I could do like a face reveal, talk Dragon Ball with people who are into it. And then at the time for that, I didn't really have any ideas of it becoming a business or anything of the sort. It was just more of like for fun.
Right.
Then a friend of mine, he's like, hey, you should try something. He's like, I've seen people doing these like live watch alongs on YouTube or whatever. I didn't think anything of it. So I kind of like shrugged them off for a little bit. And I was like, I don't know what that is, how that's going to work out. And then I was like, okay, whatever, what the hell, I'll try it. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about how copyright works on YouTube, nothing of the sort, like nada. So I get my friend Lupasan. I was like, hey, let's do it. I mean, we watch it every Saturday anyway. It'll be fun. Just post it. Because he used to do, a lot of people don't know that Lupasan used to do YouTube a long time ago, before even the channel started. He was really big into like, he still is, but like Street Fighter, he would post Street Fighter videos. And, you know, there was that, you know, the FGC little segment of YouTube. It's way bigger now, but, you know, he was a part of that, you know, at its inception. And so I was like, let's do it. You know, it'd be a chance for you to get back into YouTube too. I know you say you miss it and let's just try it. And then it just kind of went crazy. And I was like, whoa. I was like, I've been trying to like post other kinds of videos and, you know, those weren't really working out, you know. And I was like, and this is kind of blowing up. I'm like, this is cool. I guess we could do it every Saturday. It's fine. And then it kind of became like a creative outlet for him as well, because when we were younger, we would have all these dumb ideas for like jokes like skits, because we grew up watching Chappelle's Show, which was like our favorite show. Like we would watch it over and over again. And like, so we started making little comedy sketches and things like that. And then I would say like when the channel kind of really like took its leap was when we did this God of War skit. It literally took us like 2 hours to film. It was like the most bullshit thing ever. Like it was just so crude the way we did everything. Whatever. This is funny to me. Let's put it out. And then it kind of went crazy on Reddit. And then that was the first time our channel kind of blew up. And we got like 30,000 subs overnight, which was pretty cool. But we kept doing the reaction thing. Still not sure where it was going to go. it was just we were just doing it. And then Dragon Ball Super ended, and then people wanted us to see us check out other shows. So we would like do like a show here and there. It was like One Punch Man, like just things here and there. It wasn't anything as robust as it is now.
Yeah.
And then I would say the key turning point was when the normies had invited me to go out to Indianapolis. I was so blown away. I just seen how they ran their entire operation and just how sophisticated it was, and I was just like, this is crazy. It wasn't anything that I could ever imagine. So when I'm around stuff like that, like business wise, I always soak up knowledge. So I came back home and I told Lupasan and Sheera, and I was like, listen guys, give me 6 months, and I promise, give me 6 months and we can all quit our jobs and do this full time. And then 6 months later, I was the first one to quit, and then Sheera and then Lupasan. And then since then, it's just been kind of like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
And just way more organization and things like that. And just, I kind of don't, I don't want to keep rambling because I don't know what kind of questions you have for me.
No, it's all right. Yeah, no, that's all good.
That
man.
was kind of how everything started and began to get us to where we are now.
Exactly. I mean, no, that's wonderful. I mean, that's exactly what I want to hear. Just sort of like, the ins and outs of how that started, especially the Twitter stuff. That's really fascinating. I remember, I only got on Twitter back in like 2017, 2018. So like that was when I was still starting to learn it as well. So like learning about that culture is like really fascinating, what it was at that time. And yeah, you obviously mentioned Lupa and Sheera, your co-hosts, big essential parts of the channel. What's the history with you three? I guess, how did you all meet?
Well, Sheera and I, we've been together since we were teenagers. So we've been together since we were 16. And Lupasan has been my best friend since I was like 14. So since I moved to New York and moved to Florida, we connected over games and stuff like that, and anime. And yeah, it's just kind of been like a lifelong friendship. So we've all known each other around the same amount of time. So, which is crazy. It's like we've known each other for the majority of our lives at this point.
Right. And it's been a great relationship on camera, as we've seen. Did you have already, when you started the channel, the idea to loop them into it? Or was that something you sort of like, developed after the fact once it started rolling?
No, that kind of developed after the fact. Because it was all me at first, just doing different things that I was interesting. I thought would be cool. And then when we did the live reaction thing, I was like, oh, I mean, it'd be kind of boring if it's just me. So, I mean, when Lupa and I watch stuff together, we're fun together.
Right.
So let me bring him in. And then the idea to add Sheera came in, I think like a couple times after. I'm like, oh, it'd be cool to like, have like a woman as part of the dynamic, because Sheera is also into anime. I'm like, you watch it too. So it's like, I'm watching it and then I have to watch it again with you once I'm done. So why don't we all just do it together?
Right. That makes sense.
And so it was just kind of like a improvising and just kind of winging it thing at first.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned, the fact that you soak up knowledge, with those around you and sort of learn what you want to sort of adapt for yourself. Were there any significant technical learning curves when you got started in terms of like, recording, lighting, editing, stuff like that?
Well, the lighting and stuff wasn't really hard. I had background as like a photographer already, so I already had like key lights and things like that. I would say the only real issue that I had was the editing aspect and trying to navigate copyright,
right?
Because that was something that was totally new to me. But editing video in itself wasn't difficult because I was already editing music videos and stuff like that. So it wasn't really like a hurdle.
Yeah. And I remember one of your early videos you made back in the day was a video you made when you started doing reactions, talking about the value of reactions, because that was in the era when, it was pretty common for reaction videos to get sort of that stigma of, they were, easy content or like lazy or, like low effort. And you made a video talking about like, what it actually does for, your community and sort of the engagement that you have. After doing this for so many years, I guess, how has your perspective of the value of that grown or evolved, with the channel?
I would still say that there's value in it. I'm gonna be totally honest. We have like 3,000 videos, so I don't even remember what video you're talking about. That was so long ago.
Yeah.
But I definitely still think that there's value in it, and I know that every day when we get messages from people who watch us, there are still people who have trouble finding people to connect with the same interests. So they watch all of our channels. They watch reaction videos for that community, whether it be the comment section or whether to feel like they're watching the show with friends, because, some people still may have trouble connecting with others as well. And so I feel like reaction videos kind of make up for that. And for some people, it's kind of like a comfort thing too. It's comforting and they feel like they connect with you and they understand. And it's like, wow, you're into the same thing
Right.
that I am and you love it just as much as I do. It's like, I'm at home, I'm watching the show. I love this show. Let me go and see if I can find other people who love this show as much as I do and see what they think about it. It's definitely something that's full of value, in my opinion.
Right, exactly. And when you started, branching into more reactions for the full rotation of the channel, that's when Dragon Ball Super was about to end, and so you had to sort of branch out into other shows. Do you remember any sort of initial strategy or plan you had for like moving past that era of Dragon Ball Super and into other content?
It was just mainly. It was kind of like my re-entry into the world of anime. Like I had Crunchyroll, but it wasn't like I was like on it all the time. Naruto was the first manga that I read. I was reading it in high school, that and Bleach. But beyond that, I wasn't really like picking anything else up. I had Crunchyroll to watch Naruto episodes and Bleach. And so when Dragon Ball was ending, it was kind of like, okay, well, people are recommending these kinds of shows. Whatever, let's check them out.
Right.
And that, kind of opened it up for us. So like I said, we jumped into One Punch Man, which was one that I had watched the first season on my own, and I thought it was hilarious. And I was like, oh, okay, season 2 coming out, let's check it out. They had recommended like Overlord, and then other things started coming out, and it was just like, okay, this is fun. But it kind of got real, like I said, after I met the normies and came back, and a lot of people were bringing up like Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I was like, wow, I seen like a couple of episodes on Nickelodeon when I was younger, but I didn't have cable growing up, so I didn't have Nickelodeon, so like I didn't watch it. I don't really know much about the show, so let me pick up these Blu-rays and let's do reactions to that. And it was great because we were all in the same boat and we got to experience that. And I feel like that's when everything kind of really like took off, especially like on the Patreon side of things.
Right.
And kind of that was when I kind of had to like reel it back and realize like we need a schedule and we need to organize these things.
Yeah. The organizational part of the, every channel, I think is a important thing everyone learns along the way, and how that sort of best fits, for them, especially with something like Avatar. Avatar is always like sort of a big hit for a lot of channels, when they start, because the community at that point, is stagnant for a decade of, no more Avatar material to sort of, so they started finding it again through channels like yourself. And, in 2019 is when you had your first daughter. And so I guess, what was that experience like, balancing, family responsibilities now with the channel as you were starting to get further into it?
Oh, I'm like a workaholic. So those are kind of the times when I thrive, to be honest. So I was still working full time, recording. I was doing all the editing. I was doing everything for the channel, and then still doing contract work on the side on top of all of that. So I was working upwards of like 70 hours a week in addition to having a child. So it's just I work well under pressure. It wasn't anything where I'm like, oh, I'm dying, I gotta stop.
Yeah. And then, again, shortly after that was the pandemic, 2020 going into, the sort of new wave of the reaction space that we had because everyone was stuck at home. So we saw a lot of new channels pop up, saw a lot of people finding channels because they were stuck at home and trying to find things to connect with, as you said. I guess what was that experience like, the pandemic experience of, growing the channel in those years on top of, like people finding you because of the time that they had?
Yeah, it was insane. It was I don't think it was what anybody expected. Online media, independent media blew up
Hmm.
during the pandemic. You had nothing else to do. You were stuck inside the house. There was nothing going on TV really. You know, I was going crazy because I couldn't go to the gym, and it was just like, okay, prime time for us to record, and then our job at the time switched. Sheera and I, we worked at the same place, switched us to work from home, and it gave us even more time to record reactions. So
Right.
it was just absolutely perfect. If you are a YouTuber or any form of content creator, it gave you all the time that you needed to record, and it gave you the audience that you needed. So it was kind of like on you whether or not you were able to captivate that audience
Hmm.
and keep them around.
Yeah. And yeah, the audience in particular for your channel is one of the most, I started to think, engaged and active, viewership that I've seen for almost any reaction channel. Just you have a really great relationship with them, and the way you engage with them on Twitter and YouTube and Patreon, Twitch, Discord, everything is just really impressive. I guess what has gone into fostering that relationship with your viewers over the years?
The first thing I would say was when I created a dedicated Discord server. Um, who I now have mods. I have mods that run that because there's only so much that I can do.
Right.
I'll pop in when I can on there, but it's like a community
Mhm.
or of people who can go in and talk about whatever they want at whatever time. And then the Patreon community grew, and then the Twitch thing came in afterward because it's like I still wanted to play games, you know, and it's like, hey, let me figure out a way. That was really janky at first, trying to figure out how that works, but I like the process of building and trying new things.
Right.
So it was really fun to look at what other people are doing, and it's like, oh, how'd they do that? How they make that overlay? Let me try to make my own. So like at first I made my own overlay and things like that, and just try to make everything look as professional as possible to make everything work.
Yeah.
um because I'm really big on visuals, so if something looks like shit, I'm sorry, I don't know if I can curse, but
Sure. Please. Yeah.
but
It's okay.
if something looks bad, I can't put it out.
Yeah.
But that's just because of my background
Hmm.
and what I do. So it was just kind of like a hodgepodge of stuff. Everything that's happened was me winging it. I'm not gonna lie. It's not like I had like some grand master plan
Yeah.
of what I was gonna do and when. It was just I feel like if you have an idea, the best day to implement it is right now.
Hmm.
Because if you try to plan it, you're never gonna do it.
Right.
So if I have an idea, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do it. It's the same way when I started the channel. I was like, all right, I'm gonna set it up. I'm gonna do it. There's no point in me trying to like have some kind of master plan rollout. Like I'm
Yeah.
this huge celebrity. If you're gonna do anything, right now is the time to start.
Yeah. Makes
So
sense.
that's kind of the mentality I use when I jump into anything, even still to this day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's definitely a sentiment I've heard from other people as well. Just best time is to just start and just like you learn along the way. Break things, fix things. When as
Yep.
you learn, and then on the flip side of that, with the engagement, something that I really admire is your honesty with your viewers and the people beyond your viewership. Online. The two parts to that, the transparency that you have with your audience in terms of, scheduling changes, show delays, if you have to drop shows for the sake of the channel, and being, very upfront about how, things sort of operate for yourself and why this is happening. I guess, how do you approach and maintain that, healthy transparency with them?
I think it's important for people to understand that, yeah, it's YouTube, but it's still not just a hobby for us. Like, it's our job. Like, this is what we do for a living. So you have to make decisions that are going to be best for you and your business. And, everybody's not going to like it, but, I'm going to try and make you understand. It's kind of like if your favorite show gets canceled because nobody's watching it on TV,
Yeah.
the network has to do what's best for them and their pocket. And a lot of people kind of are still stuck in the mentality that everybody that's on YouTube should be doing it for a hobby. Well, not everybody, but there's a lot of people.
Right.
And I still feel like a lot of people are in love. This is how I'm gonna steal his words. Your boy Rock Lee puts it.
All right.
A lot of people are in love with the idea of the starving artist. So when people begin to make money, the mentality shifts. So it's hard for people to wrap their heads around that. When you're doing something for fun versus now when you're doing it to sustain a living.
Right.
So I feel like it's always important to let people know and let people understand. I think recently we dropped the show. We were honest about it. It wasn't anything to do with like a lack of views or anything though. But sometimes the other side of it is sometimes you want to do what's best for your content. And so if I'm pushing out reactions and, we're kind of like not really vibing with it, it doesn't make sense for us to continue doing it just because you want to see us watch it.
Yeah.
When I can be reacting to something else and providing you more entertainment on a different show, something that we're really locked into. I think that provides more value to the community as a whole than for you to watch me not be interested.
Totally.
So, and I know there are a lot of channels that will drop shows and things of that nature. I just hope that people understand the reasons why and understand that we're all people too. And just like how when you're at home, you'll watch a show and then you'll be like, I'm not really into this, and you'll stop watching it. People who do reactions have the same freedom to do that.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, I mean, just like you said, making sure that your engagement with the material is important for yourself. So it adds value to what you're putting out, not just for the sake of putting it out, but for having sort of a valuable, perspective on it. That goes along with scheduling. You mentioned recently on Twitter how you don't feel the need to rush to put things out right away, with same day drops of new episodes. You want to let those be edited and sort of put out and have sort of a flair on it that you feel is valuable. And over the years, how have you again approached that mentality of making sure that there's value to what you're putting out? You're not just hustling just to hustle.
So I would say at first, even up until maybe 2 years ago, we were involved in the reaction rat race, so to speak, where it's oh man, this new hot episode dropped right now. We need to record it today and get it edited today and put it up today. And that's not really healthy. Shows drop every day of the week. So after a certain point, I think the last time we did that was for Attack on Titan, but Attack on Titan deserves it. So it's
Definitely.
After that, I made the decision. I said, we're not going to be recording or anything like that on the weekends. We need to have time to ourselves, time to breathe, time to not think about YouTube or recording reactions, and just time to be regular people. So we stopped prioritizing that. And it's also not healthy for our editor, Zima, who's been with us for about 3 years now. And it's he gives you guys his best work. I say you guys because the reactions are for you,
right?
So he's able to put out his best work when he has some time to do it and not have to rush and get something out the same day. Because the reason why people come back and watch our reactions over and over again, a lot of time, we add that extra flair to it, and he also takes the time to come up with new ideas visually. He's also a visual person. So
Hmm.
the layout, the animations, the way everything comes in on screen, all of that is his idea, you know? And it takes time to do all of that. So why not give it the time it deserves?
Right.
You know, I feel like if you rush out a product, you'll kind of get that. You'll kind of see that on the back end when it comes
Mhm.
to retention and things like that. So we make sure we take our time to put out the best product possible.
Of course, yeah, and yeah, I mean, working with Zima and other artists is such a big part of the channel now. For your thumbnails and for the special art that you have for the Twitch streams and such. I guess what has that process been like? Being able to reach out and find other creators, especially with yourself having an eye for that with the graphic design background and like sort of knowing what looks good for yourself and where you're sort of like looking for from them.
So it's really hard for me personally to kind of be hands off. So
Mm.
I did most of the editing for the majority of the years that we had the channel. But then at a certain point, we started adding more shows, and I'm like, I can't do all of this.
Right.
So at the time, there was another channel, Kimchi and Tofu, and I was watching everybody's reactions, and I'm like, wow, they have a really good editor. I'm like, who's editing these videos? So I scoured, found him, messaged him. He's like, oh, hey, I watch you guys too. Like, yeah, I can edit here and there for you. And then that kind of grew into I'm like, hey, I can put you on like a retainer if you can do
Right.
more videos. And then now that became hey, I could put you on payroll,
Yeah.
and this is a full-time gig for you. And it's been like that way for 3 years. And he takes the initiative. He's like, right now he's working on a whole new layout. He wants to do something different. So right
Mhm.
now we're working on switching things up again, which
Yeah.
is totally fine with me, because it also helps speed up our work process. But with the gaming stuff, I think I was on Twitter and I seen this company that had did this. I think it was for like Ninja's wife or something like that. They
Mm.
did like this stream setup, like these cool visuals and stuff, and I was like, that's cool. Like I would love something like that. Like that's really immersive and that's way better than what I can do. So I talked with them and spoke with them about my vision, and we came up with what we had for the past 2 years. And then this year I was like, okay, it's time for an update. I want to update stuff, make it better, see what we can do. And then they were up to the challenge, and we collaborated and came up with a lot of cool ideas to implement for a stream. Because in my mind, if I'm going to do the gaming thing seriously, which is why I set up the gaming channel, then I want it to reflect that in the product that we put out.
Yeah.
So again, it's always about the end product and the viewer experience for me. And I feel like we provide one of the best streaming experiences out. Like if you come to our stream and watch, it's definitely not going to be like anything basic.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
we have all kinds of like little features and things like that. So not everybody has like an eye for visuals and stuff like that, and that's fine. But it's kind of like it's like a thing that I've learned. It's like a psychology thing. So even if you think you don't need to do it,
Mhm.
so some people, they'll be like, oh, well, I don't need to do that. I don't need to work on making my visuals better. Nobody really cares about that. They're just here for the reaction, but it actually plays a huge role psychologically.
Yeah.
When somebody is watching your stuff, it's the same ideology behind thumbnails and colors and things like that.
Mhm.
And the same reason why Mr. B spends all this money on a thumbnail, because there's a lot that goes into what makes somebody click on a video.
Totally.
It's a lot bigger than what you may think. So I'm always focused on that. That's like my thing.
Yeah.
Like
It's cumulative. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
those things that add up, over time when you start polishing this thing, eventually have a fully polished product that, looks really good and you're really proud of. And the investment in that is really important to know that, you're
Correct.
spending time and money on people who are going to, fit that vision. And it's worth, your own mental sanity to sort of have that foundation beneath yourself to achieve those things. And, working with, not just other artists online, but like other creators in the reaction space and beyond, that you've been doing over the last, few years. I guess, what has that been like for you? Being able to meet new people, being able to support people, because like I know you're a very big supporter of just your colleagues in the space and how they're doing, and like promoting their streams and like with their videos. I guess, yeah, how's that developed for yourself over the last few years?
Oh, I love supporting others, and just spreading that love, especially since nothing that I've done is on my own.
Mhm.
We had that help and support from other creators when we started. So I'm never one to shy away from community and networking, and I'm a very social person, and I'm a very friendly person. So I love talking with others and hearing about what they've done or what they're doing or what they plan to do. Um, and just working with other creators that have the same mindset. So it's like our vlog channel that we have now, which is the third channel in rotation. So I'm like really big into the building process. I like to get in the mud and like build something from the ground up.
Mhm.
It's very fulfilling for me personally. So like the vlog channel is like a new little baby of mine,
Yeah.
um, that I'm always kind of like trying to figure out how can we do this? How can
Mm.
we make this better? What can we do for this thumbnail? Like,
Right.
but I like that too because that's also a driving, like it's like a vehicle to help all of us that are a part of it. And so, obviously we've had people who we've gotten really close to and who we would like to grow with as well. And being able to start that vlog channel with these people was awesome for us.
Yeah.
Because it's a collaborative effort, it's a give and take. So but yeah, at anytime I have the opportunity to help, I'm always there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's present. It's, apparent in the space, how much you've worked with people, especially, again, over the last year or so. There's been so many, live community events that you've been able to attend, for special conventions and, events, stuff like that. You mentioned, DreamCon as was a big thing, last year that you went to and you're sort of looking forward to, what's coming up on the horizon. But, what has that been, I guess, to be able to cross that threshold of meeting people in real life, and just attend those events and be a part of like something beyond that for the vlog channel and just for your own experience?
I would say it's awesome, man. It's I'm very grateful that people value us and what we do to the point where they would want to even invite us into these spaces and be a part of these groups. It's never a thing where we're like, oh, we feel like we need to be here or what. It's always a thing of like, wow, that's really cool, that you guys appreciate what we do enough to see us as peers and colleagues and want to have us to be a part of what you have going on. Um, so we always approach it from that standpoint of just being grateful for where we are and where we've come. And it's crazy because we're in year 7 and
Mhm.
the average lifespan of a creator, it used to be what, 5 to 7 years. I
Yeah.
have no idea where we're trending now. Hey, when I said where we're trending, I mean the industry as a whole.
Right.
It's looking like it's trending to be a lot longer than what anybody initially anticipated, but it's all just dependent on how you carry yourself, um, how you handle your content, your community, the business side of things, which is huge. Understanding
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
I think that cumulatively determines what the lifespan will be for a creator. So we're just kind of just taking it as it comes and
Yeah.
just super blessed and grateful for where we are.
Of course. Yeah, it's over time, it's finding that balance, so you don't get burnt out. You don't, like run yourself ragged trying to like stay on top of the channel. And that's what gives you that longevity to keep going, for so many years and to keep growing. As you said, you guys are on the road to a million. So I think you guys are well, on that way to hit that, pretty soon. For yourself, for you, between you, Lupa and Sheera, do you guys have any sort of practices to, maintain that dynamic that you guys have on camera, but also off camera to make sure it's not only work. It's, it is still a fun thing that you can enjoy doing day to day.
Well, so for us, it's a thing where, so we record Mondays through Thursdays, but we don't sit there and record just for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, days on day. There has to be, again, it has to be like a balance. Like, we are human beings, so a lot of people want a lot of content from us. I still feel like we provide a lot of content, but we kind of split it up to where we don't usually record more than 2 hours a day. And that's because when you start to just sit there and just kind of space out and just watch TV, it can burn you out. It'll start to hurt your eyes. You're just not as engaged, you're not as entertaining. So that's one practice. We record these days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Live your life, spend time with your family, do what you got to do, take care of your errands, and so on and so forth. And we travel a lot as a group, so we're always having fun outside of reactions. We're going to DreamCon next week, so it's like we're kind of prepping for that. So and the dynamic has never really changed. It's always just been authentic. So whether we're on camera or off camera, we're always the same way. But it's just all about like striking that balance.
Right. Totally.
And I know some people are going to say, "Oh, you only record 2 hours a day." It's 2 hours of recording, but it's a lot of hours of everything else that comes along with it. So, it's like a regular work day.
Yeah, there's a lot of setup around it. A lot of buffering on and off at the top and tail to get that stuff set up to go and look as good as it does. Believe me, I know. And yeah, the one thing I obviously want to touch upon as well for yourself is again, your Twitter presence has always been really great. You've always been like really, really engaged with like your viewers, but also you're not afraid to jump into the fray a little bit for people who you kind of want to speak up, for yourself. You don't go looking for online fights, but you're not afraid to give clarity to people who you think, might need it for your opinion or for, sort of facts about yourself for the channel. How do you go about, approaching people online in such a, volatile culture that we have now, and like not get, sucked into the aggression about it, but just sort of speaking your piece and letting it go?
So usually if I have to get volatile with somebody, like I had to do that yesterday, it's kind of like I'll say my piece and then I'll kind of move on.
Yeah.
And then I won't continue to engage. Just because the internet is not a real place. When you understand the personalities of people who do certain things online, it's kind of like okay, well, I'm not just gonna let you talk about me or people who I'm very close to in any kind of way, just because what happens is a lot of people go online and interact with people who are content creators in a way where they believe you cannot say anything to me because this will hurt you on the back end. This will hurt your business. That's kind of the mindset. They're like, you have to be politically correct all of the time, so you won't say anything to me. So every now and again, I think it's perfectly healthy for a creator to respond, because people need to understand that we are also human beings just like you.
Right.
We're no different than you. Whether you think I am not. I am the same. I have the same kinds of feelings and emotions. So I have every right to say whatever I want to you in return. Like, I'm not gonna be like super disrespectful or nasty or or call you names or anything like that. But
yeah,
I'll put you in your place if I have to.
Yeah.
every once in a while, but I generally keep all my interactions on on Twitter positive and just try to interact with people positively. I like to interact with
Yeah.
the cool side of the community, um, and just show my appreciation whenever I can. And it's like an easy place to interact with me. I would say that's the easiest place is Twitter.
Yeah, it's yeah, like like we said, it's finding that balance, but also like you said, driving towards positivity of what you really want to engage with is important because that's how you, I think, avoid flying off the handle to like really always get sucked into these things that can be negative. And for yourself, you develop like again like a really positive community around the content and like just the way you guys want to interact with the material. It's never going into it thinking like, oh, how do we sort of like break this thing down and destroy it. It's basically how do we show appreciation for it, engage with it honestly. And it's such an important part of channels like this for reactions because the
Yeah.
community part is such a big part of why they thrive and like the people that you said can find the connection with you over the stuff that they love. I guess for the extent of the channel that you've had been a part of it, what has been the most consistent obstacle you faced with the channel over the years?
Um, I don't. I wouldn't say there's any consistent obstacle anymore. At first, it was copyright, but then we kind of made a shift into how we do our editing.
Mm.
And then I think if there's like copyright issues, I think maybe we deal with like between 1 and 3 per year for the last 3 years,
It's good.
which isn't which isn't a big deal.
Yeah.
And also I think I can't say this I can't say this with 100% certainty, but I do believe that the stigma around reactions is somewhat changing anime wise overseas with certain companies. We had gotten invited to a Case-to-Fight event for Jujutsu Kaisen earlier
Right,
this
yeah.
year, and when we spoke with them, they said that they actually had to clear any of the creators that they brought with the rights holders. So that was kind of like a okay, so they know who we are and what we do,
Yeah.
and they are okay with it.
That's
And
big.
so,
Yeah.
we were even interviewed by a Japanese TV station last year.
Mhm.
So I think things might be shifting somewhat. Not every company has the same like ideals or anything when it comes to it, but I definitely think it's not going to be as big of an issue for everybody as it used to be. I think they're starting to see the value in what we do. So whereas that used to be the main obstacle and fear, I don't really have that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Slowly breaking down those walls of, what I think, yeah, hopefully what the companies over there, view your content as, what the possibilities can be for the future from that. And I guess, how do you feel you've personally grown over the years with the channel?
I'd say I've grown more business savvy,
Mhm.
and just having full knowledge of the ins and outs of how what we do works and why it works, and just observing and seeing what we do different from everybody else and how we can continue to differentiate ourselves, and then applying that to other things like the streaming and gaming side of things. I feel like with the knowledge that I gained from the main channel, I was able to apply that to our gaming channel. And some of that knowledge I'm also able to apply to our vlog channel. So it's kind of just learning and building new things with the knowledge that I previously had, which kind of makes it easier each time.
Right. And the final question is, beyond any monetary or financial value, what is the most rewarding aspect of the channel for you?
The community and interacting and meeting people in real life and having people come up to us in real life and, tell us how much they love our stuff. Like Sheera and I all the time at the gym run into people at the gym that just come up to us and just
Yeah.
tell us that they love what we do. And so we just appreciate that we can bring so much joy to others,
Mhm.
to the point where they'll watch us, a few times a week and enjoy it. And also, the fact that they would come to our Patreon and just, watch our stuff there or watch us on stream. Just the fact that anybody is giving away their most valuable resource to us, which is time, is I would say like the biggest reward. It's like, time is your most valuable resource. It's very limited, and you're spending some of that with us. Like that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. You do have a final questionnaire here, just 10 questions down the line for you. You can answer however you want. First question is, what is your favorite TV show of all time?
Breaking Bad.
Nice. What is your favorite film?
Oh, The Matrix. The first one.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Question is, what stresses you out?
What stresses me out is a lack of organization.
That makes sense. I can feel that. What helps you relax?
Work.
Yeah, that's good. I definitely feel that too. Yeah.
If I'm not working, I don't know what to do with myself, and then I just kind of get antsy.
Yeah, same here. Exactly. What is a hobby or passion you have outside of TV and film?
Travel.
Yeah. What fictional character do you relate to or care deeply about?
What fictional character do I relate to?
Yeah, or just care deeply about.
Or care deeply about. Ooh, that's a tough one. Let's go to the next one. Give me some time to think about that.
Okay, sure. Yeah, come back to it. Yeah. What is your guilty pleasure, show or film?
My guilty pleasure show is Love is Blind.
Yeah, that's a great one. Definitely. What show or film gave you your favorite reaction experience with the channel?
Suicide Squad. The James Gunn Suicide Squad.
This was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a great one. What show or film do you wish you could erase from your memory and react to again for the first time on camera?
There's a few. There's like 3 where I'm like kind of like, I would say they're kind of tied for me, but I would say Avatar, Snowfall, and Peaky Blinders.
Yes, yeah, Peaky Blinders is a great one. The movie coming out, so hopefully we get that one on the channel. Yeah. And the final question is, what advice would you give to your past self if you can go back in time when you first started the channel?
Oh, if I could go back, see, I wouldn't do anything different. I would just tell myself to follow my gut. That way I made the same choices the same way.
Yeah. Good.
Because if I didn't, it wouldn't have worked out the way it did now.
Yeah. Can't change the timeline.
And man, a character that I care deeply about or I relate to, man, that is so tough. We watch so much things.
Yeah.
I never thought a question like that would be so difficult.
It can be, yeah. I guess if any show, maybe of recent memory, that it just became one of your favorite characters.
I would I would say like Barry, but he's like psycho, but it was just such a funny show.
Yeah.
That it's kind of like I cared about him because it's like, dude, you're like, things that have happened to you are just so terrible, man. I feel so bad for you. So I could say that. Yeah. I would say like I cared about him up until a certain point as a character and his well-being because he just wasn't all there and didn't have like the greatest life.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think that's definitely the design of the character is to feel that way. Yeah. Roshi, thank you so much for being here, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Can hear everything. Where can we find you online, YouTube, social media, otherwise?
Literally everything is at YaBoyRoshi. And then we have Lupasan, who is Lupasan2, I believe, on Twitter. And Lupasan Forever on Instagram, and Sheera is It's Sheera on Instagram and Twitter. It's with a Z.
Right. Got it. You can find us at Passionfruit for us across social media. You can find me at Necronic across social media. You can find our Discord and Patreon and links below. And we'll catch everyone on the next episode.